Yes, so now we are having Dr. Sanjay Sharma. I hope I'm audible properly and the screen is visible. I hope I'm audible properly and my slide is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Dr. Sanjay Sharma would be uh, uh, taking some talking about disaster financing in India. And the 1 hour is very less for to say that what we will be learning out of it, but definitely we will be learning a lot because this is a topic which not many people are taking nowadays, and it is the toughest topic and which is necessary and which everybody is trying to struggle with. So, posted as an associate professor in the Department of Politics and International Studies at Pondicherry University, with working experience of more than 12 years at Motilal Nehru College, University of Delhi, Army Cadet College, Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, working in public policy focusing on political ecology issues like disaster financing, energy security, climate change, negotiations on financing, adaptation, and mitigation, to say the few, and recently submitted a major project on solid waste management and integration of the informal sector, and completed another major project on the role of Panchayati Raj in disaster management in 2009. Amazing. So, sponsored by the it is sponsored by the ICSSR. Delhi, and he has published a number of research papers in the Journal of National and International Repute, edited one book, Environmental Governance in India, and co authored an upcoming book, Global Politics. My God. By Orient Black Swan. We would definitely like to have these books. So please give us the links to have these
Certainly,
books.
ma'am.
Thank you so much. By Orient Black Swan, seeking to constructively apply knowledge gained out of research in these books. So, welcome, sir. We welcome you. And now I leave the screen for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Just a second. Yes, sir. Please start.
Okay. Good evening to Rashri, ma'am, and all the participants. And I'm audible, hopefully, to everyone.
Sir, you are audible. I'll just request all the participants. Uh, just let me check to close their cameras. I will request all the participants to please close their cameras so that we can have sir can share his presentation properly. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you. Thanks, ma'am, for inviting me on such a nice FDP that is on disaster management. And this is something which is very relevant, very contemporary, and very futuristic also. We need to manage it. But whenever we are saying that disaster management, though nowadays it is the relevant term will be resilience because this is what is our aim. We want to move from management to resilience, but when we are talking about disaster management or either disaster resilience, finance is something which is very important. Without finance, whatever the plan we have, whatever the policy we have, whatever the management part that we have, that will be unmaterialized. So to materialize all the policies, plan, and act, we need to have a sound financing mechanism, and this is what I'm going to attempt in the next 1 hour. After that, hopefully we'll interact. I would like to have more comments, more questions, more queries, so that I can also enrich my research in this area. So in the next 1 hour, I'll be discussing a macro perspective. Once again, it's not going to be a micro one, a macro perspective, that how disaster risk funding is managed in India. So how it has evolved over the period of time, number one. Number two, what were the concerns of the related parties? Related parties means the states, the different ministries, different agencies. Were they happy about the disaster management schemes or not? What were their issues? How they raised it? And once again, to their issues, how those issues were responded, by the union government. and what kind of scheme that we have finally right now at present. That will be my focus area in the next 1 hour. But before just sliding my sharing my slides and all that, I would like to have some interaction, some basic interaction so that we can proceed in a better way. So obviously this is the third day of uh, the FDP. So
Yes,
I'll
sir.
start with the basic concept. And even the participant, just tell me, how will we define disaster when we are saying this particular event is disaster, So what should be the specification? How we can say this event is not a disaster and other event is a disaster, obviously. This is what I want to know. Tell me.
Please raise your hand, participants, quickly. Yes,
Okay,
Prakash ji.
Prakash Chandra, yes.
If it's happening matlab, without any planning, or if something is planned and it happened not according to that, then it may be called as disaster, or some loss has been done, or uh, maybe these two criteria.
Yes.
Loss is, yeah, yeah.
Mm. Okay.
Prakash ji,
Sorry, sir.
the low, no issue. Okay, Dr. Devanshi is also willing to say something. Yes.
Sir, anything that has a harmful effect on a larger population is known as disaster.
Okay. That we can take that, okay, the parameter is a harmful effect on a larger population. Okay,
सर मुझे
that can be.
चांस देंगे आप बोलने का?
Ma'am,
अभी
certainly,
अभी
certainly, ma'am.
नो नो नो,
This is,
पहले सब लोग बोल लेंगे, उसके बाद मैं
yes,
बोलूंगी,
yes.
if
Ma'am,
they are not
certainly.
able to answer.
Yeah, yeah. This is something which is a learning process, because
Yes, yes.
there is a discourse. We say that there is a discourse. Out of discourse, we learn a lot of things. So
Yes, yes.
Devanshi ji, this is one of the element what you say larger population. So when we have something like dengue, when we have something like malaria, do we call that as a disaster? That I'm just we need to think about it. This is okay. Anyone else in the? I'm not expecting any definition, any exact answer. I just want your view because we are talking about disasters. So we should be knowing that yes, how do we define disaster? What is a disaster? Yes, Aarti ji.
So, good evening. I think it's more to do with damage to life and asset.
Mm-hmm.
So, a disaster will be disastrous when, दोनों इंसान और assets or infrastructure damage होगा, तो that would be disaster to me.
Okay. Okay. Good. Anyone
Anybody
else? You want
else?
to say that it should be inclusive of the flora and fauna, the living being, and also the infrastructure. That should be when there is an impact, it should be disaster
Yes,
zone.
and
Yes.
impact on
Yes.
flora, fauna, life, and
Yes.
infrastructure, all of those things.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Good. Yes. Anyone else in the
So,
audience?
I think we should have taken basics of disaster management, but anyways,
No.
Manmeet, please.
Yes, sir. Any large scale disruption of lives and the loss of economic opportunities, which is sudden and which where we can not have a proper plan on that.
Okay.
That is which is called, I think, disaster.
Yes, Manmeet ji, you're quite near to that.
Close.
Yes.
Sir, I
Okay.
think on the when you are asked na, so these all participants are not able to cope up with your question is the definition of disaster.
No, no,
Right
ma'am. I'm
now we
not
are
asking
having a
exact
disaster.
definition, but we need to understand the basics that yes, when we are saying that one event is a
Yes,
disaster,
yes,
another
yes.
event is not a disaster. So we need to understand what it is that we should call that yes, this particular event qualifies to be addressed as a disaster.
Vinder
Anyone
could
else in the
people,
audience?
sir, मैं बता दूं? इनको
Ah,
खुद ही
please, ma'am.
बताना चाहिए था.
Okay,
भावना,
one
भावना,
more is
please.
one more
No,
is
no,
there.
भावना.
Bhavna ji. Yes, yes.
Hello, good evening, sir. I think disaster is something what other participants have said, that where there is a loss of life, loss of property, etc. But more than that, where the people are not able to cope to recoup,
Very
they are
nice.
not able to sort of on their own, they are not able to recoup from that is disaster, I think.
Very
Very
nice,
nice.
Bhavna ji.
Yeah, very nice. Now,
It,
now I know that
yes.
this is not a disaster, at least. Okay, sir.
Yes, Kamaji. Yes, Rashmi ma'am.
Yes.
Whatever you have said, everything is some part of, or you can say some element of the disaster. When we need to understand disaster, uh, yes, obviously there is a loss of life, there is a loss of infrastructure, there is a economic opportunities that are being harmed, that are being destructed. And one very important thing, even when you will consult the legal document means Disaster Management Act, 2005. How does it define disaster? So it says that any natural or man-made event, it can be both. It can be natural also, it can be a kind of flood, it can be earthquake, which is natural in that way, or it can be man-made also in that way. So it can be either, which is beyond the coping capacity of the community. You know, this is something we need to understand, that what is a disaster. Disaster is something where you require some assistance beyond your community to manage it. For example, there is a winter right now, and obviously in North India, I'm sitting in the South India very comfortably. But in North India, there is a lot of fog and other thing, and because of that, suppose some car accident or something takes place. So when this kind of event takes place, even there may be a loss of life, there may be a loss of damage of infrastructure, or you can say in that way, the car, the loss of material thing, but that is manageable. Community can manage it. Community can manage, suppose some small demolition of a building. Recently it has happened in, I think if I'm not wrong, in Chandigarh, nearby Chandigarh, when the building has demolished. We'll not call that few people also died in that. The building collapsed, few people died within that. We will not call that a disaster per se. you know why? Because that is within the reach of the community, that is within the capability of the community to manage it. But if we'll take some recent example, what are the recent, within a few weeks, can you tell me some global disasters? Anyone in the participants? You must be following the news. Within 2 3 days,
Wildfire
and
in Los Angeles.
yes, very good. It has started, this forest fire, which has started in Los Angeles. If you'll see how it has, it has gone beyond out of the community control. It started only with 1 acre, and I was following the trail of the news. Then within 5 6 hours, they said 1 acre to 1200 acres, and the evening I was looking into the news. They were saying 2900 acres you know and the FEMA has been applied. FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management provisions in USA, that has been declared, and 30,000 people in that area has been asked to leave. you know they need to be rehabilitated. So that is something which is beyond the community. Or recently, the earthquake that has happened in the Tibet and Nepal area, for that matter. So disaster, when we say disaster, some other example, if the recent example within India, if I can take, the landslide that has taken place in Wayanad, in the July, August, that period. So more than 400 people died in that. That was not even, that was not within the community to manage it. And we need to ask the army to come up and do the assistance and rescue and relief work. There was even the civil mechanism failed over there. Then another disaster which happened in the place where I'm sitting right now, that is Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu. In the month of December, it was a fungal in that way, the fungal cyclone, which was beyond the coping community of the capacity of the community. So when we say that disaster is something which is beyond the coping capacity of the community, it is not only in the physical part, it also applies to the economics. It also applies that when disaster strikes, it results into the loss of life, it results into the loss of community infrastructure. It results into the loss of you can say that other property. In case of suppose in Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu, the loss of the occupations like the boats, fishing boats, the cattles and other. So it disturbs the economy, the normal economy of the area. And when we say that it disturbs the normal economy of that area, so it requires assistance, the financial assistance. So this is the part which I am going to deal, that is within India. We all know that India being a federal country, we have 28 states and 7 union territories in that way. So they require assistance, this financial assistance. So how it happens, so that I'll be sharing with you in the remaining time. So let me share my presentation with you. Okay. Yes. Is it visible to you, everyone?
Sir, it's not visible right now.
Here. Not, sir. Not visible.
You
Not
open
visible.
your you open your presentation and then share.
Okay, okay, okay. Just a minute.
You have to share it.
I shared and then I opened.
Okay, you have to keep it open and then share and then again.
Okay, okay, okay. Let me try once again. Sorry. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, okay. When it comes to the disaster, obviously India is a disaster prone country in that we have multiple disasters. India is a subcontinent in that way. I will not discuss much on the vulnerability of India. Uh, to know more about that, how India is vulnerable, how the globally we are vulnerable to disaster, you can consult the IPCC's one of the report, that is a sixth assessment report released in 2022, and thereafter they have also released 1.5 degree, which says that already we have reached the 1 degree Celsius. So just we are going to witness more number of cyclones, more number of heat days and other things. And similarly, the government of India is also following that what will be the impact of this climate change and global warming over India. And you can write it down in 2020. I don't know how many amongst you are aware that Ministry of Earth Sciences has released one report. That is the assessment of climate change over Indian regions. That how Indian regions are going to be impacted because of it. And this report divides India into four regions, that north, south, east, and west. And it sees that in the coming 20, 30 years, what will be the impact of it. So certainly we know that more and more impact is going to be there and we cannot escape it. One of the impact that I can share with you, I am also working on that. Have you ever heard of GLOF? Anyone in the audience? GLOF? Glacial lakes outburst flood. Have you heard this term before?
So there are many who have heard and know that
Yes. Okay.
graph is there.
Yeah. So GLOF, when we speak about it, so obviously it is one of the offshoot of this global warming, So Ministry of Home Affairs has already created a task group. We have identified more than 100 GLOF within India, because already in 2013 in Uttarakhand, once again to 2021 in Rishiganga, then once again in Sikkim, these events have taken place. So we know that in future this is also going to come up. So we need to be ready to this. So this is how India is prone, India is vulnerable to the disasters in that way. When I'm saying disaster, so disaster, when we are speaking about the policies of disasters, when we are speaking about the disaster financing, we need to understand that where does it locate in the federal framework? Because India is a federal country. Federal means that yes, the power is shared between the central and the state government. So the Indian Constitution, the seventh schedule of the Indian Constitution, it speaks about the three lists. There is a union list. It has around 100 subjects. These subjects only union government can make the laws. Then there is a state list with 66 subjects where the state government is allowed to make the laws. Then there is a concurrent list. In concurrent list, the both can make the laws. So where does this disaster locate? Where can we locate that yes, disaster is under the competence of which level of governance? Whether it is the union government which is dealing with this, or is it the state government? So, when I also explored in 1948 to 50, our forefathers, they were not looking disasters that much in the future. And obviously, it is not there in Indian Constitution. The word disaster you will not be able to find in Indian Constitution. And if you'll search, if you'll further research on it, that under whose competence does it fall? So the Article 248, which speaks of the residuary power, that yes, the power which are not listed in the Constitution, that power will go to the union government. So according to the Article 248, it goes to the union government. But if we'll see the practice and convention, then it is the state which are managing the disaster. So the primary responsibility of the management of the disaster lies with the states. And it is the union government which lends its support if state is not capable. That I told you in the beginning, the disaster is something which is beyond the coping capability of the community. So if it is beyond the coping capability of the state, then the central government or the union government enters into the picture. So there are few acts and policies that I have listed, that how India has been sensitized about disaster management. So it was in the 1994 that Yokohama, that one global conference on disaster has taken place. India was also a party to that. Thereafter, it was in Hyogo conference. India also attended that. So after 1994, that Yokohama, India appointed one high power committee in 1999. And that high power committee recommended that yes, we should make a law and some policies on disaster. So finally, it has resulted into the Disaster Management Act 2005, thereafter Disaster Management Policy 2009, and Sendai framework that has come from in 2015. So we have also, based on the Sendai framework of disaster risk reduction, we have also implemented, or we have also enacted this disaster management plan, national disaster management plan. So this is how disaster, if we'll see legally, if we see constitutionally, it is the state government which are primarily responsible to manage the disaster. But when it comes to the finances, so we need to understand that how finances are managed in Union of India in that way. So Union of India has, means being a Union of India, that the union government need to maintain certain equity and efficiency. You know, it is not the case that there are states which are having the highest per capita income. They are having more number of GDP, but it doesn't mean that state which are having less per capita income or less GDP, they are left alone. Rather, this is the responsibility of the union government to maintain equity and efficiency in the entire Union of India. For that, it has a redistributive role. The federal government, the central government has a redistributive role under which it runs many policies, it runs many schemes, which helps out financially to the states. And similarly, it also happens in case of disaster management. So the policies are made by the union government and these are implemented by the state in that way. So when we are saying that disaster risk funding, we'll be using this term because this is the term which is given by the Finance Commission, disaster risk funding. So there are different dimensions of disaster risk funding. If you'll see that in stages, first is the mitigation. Mitigation means that obviously, how do we know the Kosi? Kosi is known as the Soro of Bihar, So we know that yes, in Kosi, every year or every alternate year, the flood is going to happen. So we already know that yes, this is a kind of perennial issue. This is a kind of perennial problem. So why not to have some policies? Why not to have some plans? Why not to have some mitigation efforts so that we can check that to happen time and again? So for that we can have you can say that embankment. Early warning system is one of the mitigation system. So we require finances for mitigation, so that we already know that yes, this is the vulnerability area, and here we can prevent hazard to convert into the disaster. Then obviously it comes the relief work. Relief work comes when in the post disaster stage, that whenever disaster strikes, so that rescue operation, relief operation, the shelter home, the other health facility that is being given. Then response means that obviously whatever the infrastructure, the employment, the community health, the schools and other things has been at loss, we need to create it once again. The next thing is the capacity building. Obviously, that we need also some finances to run some research institution, to enable our education system so that we can learn more about the disaster. We can have some community preparedness in the disaster management at the village level, at the district level, at the state level, for that, obviously, even within the Disaster Management Act, there is a provision of NIDM, that is National Institute of Disaster Management. It is already given in Disaster Management Act. And states are also having their state institute of disaster management. So we need to invest more into the research of disaster so that we can know more about that, yes, what are the vulnerability and what better strategy we can have to manage the disaster. Now, this contingent liability, this is the term given by 15th Finance Commission. I'll be discussing a lot of finance commissions in my presentations. And till date, 15 finance commissions have taken place, and the 16th is has already been appointed and already consulting with the relevant parties, already consulting with the states and other stakeholder to prepare its report from 2026 to 2031, the next cycle. So the 15th Finance Commission, the previous Finance Commission, it termed disaster financing as contingent liability. You know, so the contingent liability says that it is arising out of unforeseen events. We were not prepared for the disasters. We are not, if according to the 15th Finance Commission, the previous finance commissions and even the approach of the government is to deal with the finances in the post-disaster situation, not in the pre-disaster situation. So that is how it was looked upon as the contingent liability. And I'll be discussing in my presentation that how 15th Finance Commission is a kind of game changer in this financing disasters. It has brought tremendous changes. It is a kind of paradigm shift the 15th Finance Commission has brought in. Okay. Now, coming to when we are saying that yes, funding, disaster risk funding, from where do we get the fund? What are the sources of our funding that we need to know? We need to understand it. So these are the major sources of, I have just named it here. The first is the centrally sponsored schemes and central sector schemes. So I told you that central government is already having a kind of redistributive mechanism it has. So it is running many schemes which across all the states and union territories, and it is contributing a lot in that way. So this centrally, what is the difference between the two? I'll just tell you. The centrally sponsored schemes are the schemes which are collaborative in nature. Collaborative in nature means that these schemes are largely financed by the central government, but one part is also shared by the state government in that. So, like Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission is there. Rashtriya Krishi means there are 66 schemes under the CSS, central sponsored schemes. Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, National Food Security Mission, National River Conservation Program. Like I told you that, like Kosi, the example of Kosi. So this kind of scheme, National River Conservation Program, may partially also be used for the, embankment and other kind of mitigation effort. Then conservation of natural resources and environmental protection. So these are the central sponsored schemes which are partly utilized for mitigation efforts for disaster financing. The second one comes the central sector schemes. These schemes are around 45 in number, and these are entirely funded by the union budget. So state doesn't require to pay any share in this. The central government is providing the entire corpus of the scheme. So the scheme like BharatNet is there, then Namami Gange is there. Namami Gange obviously the nearby areas of the Ganga river, some kind of mitigative effort can be used under this program. Then PM Swasthya Suraksha Yojana, labor welfare program, road safety work, the road which are damaged due to the disaster, it can be repaired under this kind of scheme. So these are partly related to the disaster financing. Then the second one, this is the larger, you can say this is the large part of the finance is managed by the finance commissions. So the funds recommended by the finance commission, this is something we need to understand well when we want to understand that how states are being helped out in the case, in the crisis of the disaster. Then next one is the foreign aid. Can you tell me anyone in the audience that what is the status of foreign aid in India in case of disaster? Hopefully you all are listening.
Sir, we are listening. This is very wonderful presentation.
Hmm.
Anybody please answer sir's question, sir? एक बार और
Yeah.
repeat कर दीजिए sir.
Yeah, this is it that when we are having the disasters, so most of the time the foreign aid that I told you that disaster is something which is beyond the coping capacity of the community. Community can also be our country, that is beyond the capacity of our country to manage that disaster. So can you tell me the status that how foreign aid is playing any role in managing disaster financially? Anyone in the audience? What is the status, current status? Can you recall when did India had the foreign assistance for our
Rashmi?
crisis?
Sir, from World Bank or World Health Organization, UN agencies of UN,
Hmm.
we get aid from those people also.
Okay. But do they provide us aid in, suppose like the Fengal has happened recently, or Wayanad has happened, or some other disasters? Do we receive any
No,
aid
not in
for
that.
that purpose?
Mm.
That is my
I don't
question.
recall
That.
that. Okay.
Ah. Interestingly, I'll tell you one thing that it was 2004 that the tsunami hit India, not only India, our neighboring state. And that was the time when India decided that we will not seek any foreign aid to manage our disaster. Rather, because India also want to join the club of the developed country in that way. So one of the parameter of being developed, that you manage your crisis by your own. If you are developed, then obviously why you are asking for help from other agencies, other countries in that way. So India had a policy, you can say still we are continuing with the policy after tsunami, that no to foreign aid. We are not having any foreign aid. But there is one exception to that. Yes. And that one exception is during the second wave of COVID-19. If you all can recall that at that time we were running short of the oxygen cylinders. There was a dearth of oxygen cylinder and other material. At that time, India opened its window that said we accepted certain foreign aid in terms of those material. Apart from that, we are not having it. We discontinued with having foreign aid. Rather, we are donator. We used to give it to the Nepal. We need to give it to some other country, in that way, but we don't accept it. Then this additional central assistance, that is also provided in addition to the finance commission, but only up to the 14th finance commission. Now we are not giving any additional finance central assistance. So this is the background. Now coming to some schemes, I'll be coming to the finance commissions, because finance commission is something which is framing the policies to help out the states during the disaster. So like I told you, in the first finance commissions, there was no provision, even in the constitution, even the finance commission, it didn't mean there was no reference of the disaster or natural calamity at that time. So there was some disturbance in the expenditure of the state, which was noted by the second finance commission. So acknowledging that yes, some amount has been spent on the relief and other calamity expenditure to provide relief from the calamity, natural calamity to the people. What second finance commission has done, it has kept one margin into the revenue expenditure of the state. Revenue expenditure, that whatever it was recommending for the state, that this part will be the revenue expenditure. It has kept one margin. It has kept some sum for meeting out the you can say unplanned or unexpected event like natural calamity. So this scheme is known as margin money schemes. So this scheme to help out the states to manage its natural calamity was initiated by the second finance commission, and this continued from second finance commission to the eighth finance commission. This scheme, that is margin money scheme, it continued from second to the eighth with slight changes, uh, and it was the ninth finance commission which brought a new types of scheme. What was that new type of scheme? We'll be discussing that. Now this suppose whatever the quantum of money is kept by the finance commission, that is a margin in the expenditure revenue, that is not sufficient to meet out the demand, meet out the expenditure that has happened. So to meet out the excessive expenditure, the central government was also running a scheme. So central government was saying that yes, if any state is spending beyond the margin money of its quota, then certainly center can provide the further assistance, the financial assistance. But there is a catch that this additional financial assistance will be contributory. Will be contributory means 75% will be given by the union government, and 25% of it will be contributed by the state government. But even the union government was quite smart, even landing the 75%. It said that even within the 75%, we'll take it as 100%, even out of this, whatever the union government will be contributing to the state government, 67% will be given as loan, you know. So that has to be repaid by the state. And 33% only will be given as the grant. So the states were not quite comfortable with this margin money scheme, you know, and they raised their objection that even the whatever there was the plan expenditure, like plan expenditure is the margin money scheme. If something happens more than that, non-plan expenditure, so they said that the non-plan expenditure on drought that was not covered under the natural calamity at that time. So they said that drought is being entirely being borne by the state government at that time. Then there is a lack of transparency. Most of the time, the union government disallowed the demand from the state. They cut down the demand, whatever the state governments were asking for that. So this continued from the second to the eighth one, and it was the ninth Finance Commission which has received a lot of representations from the state, and it believed that yes, natural calamity is something where the states are not able to meet out the expenditure, and they require some sound, transparent, and more accountable kind of funding from the side of the state. Then they replace this margin money scheme with the calamity relief fund, you know. So this calamity relief fund was in a way that it was contributive once again. The 75% will be given by the union government, and that 75% will not be having any kind of what do you say, that the loan component was done away at calamity relief fund. So one quota will be kept for all the states for 5 years, you know, and 75% of that quota will be given by the central government, union government, and 25% will be given by the state government. And there was states were more accountable and responsible. It was more transparent, and states were having liberty to withdraw the money, you know. So that was a quite good relief from the side of from the ninth Finance Commission to the states in that way. So this is what I told you already, you know. Now there is another issue. Yes, there is another issue at that time. I think somebody is willing to say something. No. Okay. You know, there was another issue at that time. Another issue was, yes.
Sir, what the role of state finance commission to the disaster management for funding?
Very good, very good. My dear, you keep your question. Rashri ma'am told me that we'll have the question answer session, but still, because you asked, I can reply you. Tell me, when did the State Finance Commission came into the picture? When the provision for the State Finance Commission has been there in the Indian Constitution?
State government have their own disaster fund, emergency fund,
Mhm.
other than central government fund. Then in
No, what is my
2018,
question? My question is, like the finance commissions are there, you know, in Article 280 in our original constitution, you know, from which period we have the provision of the state finance commissions? Which year? When do we have it? You know, I'll tell you once again, I'll tell you, maybe you are not clear on that. Actually, the state finance commissions, they have been inserted in Indian Constitution only after 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment. And you know it very well. 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment are for the Panchayati Raj and urban local governance. So prior to 1992, you know, there was no provision for the State Finance Commission in Indian Constitution. So nobody was having any State Finance Commission, number one. Number two, even if you'll see right now the present status of the State Finance Commission, then you'll find out of 28 states, only 6 and 7 states are there in India which are forming their state finance commissions. Rest of them, they don't do it. You know, they are in a very pathetic situation. The state finance commissions, they are not being appointed timely. You know, they are not being consulted by the states in that way. And the main purpose of the State Finance Commission was to augment fund for the local governance. That was the reason why they were, inserted in the constitution. So State Finance Commission is not having much role while it comes to the funding the disasters in that way. Rather, the role what I'll be telling you in the next maybe 20-25 minutes, that how this discourse has taken place between the union government and the state government. Okay, even there are many more dimensions. I'll be touching a few out of it. So I'm just telling you how it has evolved. Okay, so give me 20 minutes, then we'll have more discourse on that.
Yes, I will request participants to keep their questions ready once Sir is done with this session at 8:30 or so. We will have discussions, don't worry. But don't
Yeah,
interrupt
yeah.
when he's describing. It's going on that point only.
Ma'am, I'll take this by 8:40 because I
Yes,
think
yes, yes. I was
slightly.
going to say that 20 minutes only, but then I
Ah,
thought
yes.
maybe yes, 8:40. Uh,
8:40 I'll finish. 8:40 I'll
yeah,
finish.
after that we'll have question answer
Yes,
session.
ma'am.
Please keep participants. Please keep your questions ready at that time. Don't interrupt in between, please.
So in between, another question has come up that obviously the states are having some disaster, and there is a fund which is, I told you, calamity relief fund is there, which is recommended by the Finance Commission, Ninth Finance Commission. But what happens if there is a disaster of a bigger magnitude, of a bigger intensity in that way? It is that much which is out of which cannot be the requirement of the disaster cannot be meet out of the calamity relief fund. You know, it is falling short of managing the state requirements, the financial requirements. The 10th Finance Commission had a thought of it, and once again, for all of your knowledge, there is a nothing that we call as national disaster in India. There is nothing national disaster. What we call that disaster of the rare severity, that yes, this disaster was of a high magnitude, high severity. Even recently there was a discourse, there was a kind of negotiation going on between the government of Kerala and the central government. Like I told you, the Wayanad that happened in 30 July. So the Kerala government was writing time and again to the central government that declared this disaster as a national disaster. you know so the central team visited, it denied. Once again, they said that no, it has to be declared. Why this takes place? Because of the 10th Finance Commission. But the central government responded, there is nothing like national disaster in India, disaster with a rare severity. And if there is a disaster of rare severity, some additional assistance is given by the union government in that way, apart from the CRF, apart from the calamity relief fund. At that fund was known by 10th Finance Commission. It is the nomenclature of the fund was National Fund for Calamity Relief, NFCR. You know, so how to decide that this particular disaster is of rare severity or this is not of a rare severity? For the state, every disaster is of rare severity. They require additional fund from the union in that case. Most of the cases they keep writing it to it. You know, so uh, it is decided case to case basis. There is no parameter, no fixed parameter. One interministerial team formed by the union government visit the site of the disaster, you know, and they try to find out that yes, whether the based on the intensity and the magnitude of the calamity, the relief assistance required, the capability of the state, that is something very important. That is where the role of equity comes. you know so maybe there are states where the disaster is of not of that rare severity, but its economic conditions are not that good, or its quota is not that big. So the economic capability of the state to tackle the calamity and some other parameter they find it out, the team find it out, and it depends on the team to declare it a calamity of the rare severity. If it is declared, the additional fund is provided by the union government. But once again, the fund which was created by the 10th Finance Commission, that fund didn't last long. So it exhausted within 3 years, the fund of 700 crores. So the 11th Finance Commission, it has created a slightly different scheme, that is National Calamity Contingency Fund. So this NCCF, what it did a quite innovative thing. It created a permanent corpus of 500 crore, and that has to be recouped whenever some part of the fund is given to the state. It has to be recouped by levy of a special surcharge on central taxes. So there are cess that we know as, there are cess which we take on the petrol and some other thing, so that particular money goes to this fund. Now, these are the features I told you, interministerial teams and all that. This is how it was happening. So central sector and sponsored schemes, these were also, they also happen helps in managing the financings, like in a disaster hit area where you require to generate employment. Manrega scheme can be utilized to generate, at least for the time being, to generate employment in the area. Then when the house are demolished under the Indra Awas Yojana, the 10% of the annual allocation is specifically reserved for this purpose only. That yes, if there is a disaster hit area, so that can be prioritized under the Indra Awas Yojana. Then another accelerated rural water supply program, 5% is dedicated for the disaster relief. Then there is another central sponsored scheme, that is National Cyclone Risk Management Project. This is a project which is collaborated by the central government, World Bank, and partly by the state government also. And it covers the 8 states which has vulnerability from the cyclones. Now, this additional central assistance was given up to a particular period of time, but after that it has been withdrawn. Now, after the 15th Finance Commission, this additional central assistance has been discontinued for certain reasons. Why? We'll know in the coming slides. So this is the pattern. You can see the second, third Finance Commission has not allotted any money. It skipped the margin money scheme. Then fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, the CRF run up to the you can say 12th Finance Commission. Now it is the time. It was the time, like I told you, that Disaster Management Act was created in 2005, and the section 48 and 46 of Disaster Management Act says that these funds has to be created. What are these funds? The new funds. The State Disaster Response Fund and National Disaster Response Fund has to be created. So it was the 13th Finance Commission from 10 to 15, which was given reference, terms of reference, that consider implementing Disaster Management Act schemes, the financial schemes. It recommended, and the 14th Finance Commission implemented the scheme. So the CRF is known presently after the 14th Finance Commission. It was converted into the State Disaster Response Fund, the same mechanism, nothing has changed. And the National Calamity Contingency Fund has been converted into National Disaster Response Fund. Now here comes the concerns of the state. Though when we are discussing that, yes, state quota, state has been given some quota to decide its uh, to manage its disaster. How that quota has been decided by the Finance Commission? That is a very important question. What is the methodology adopted by the Finance Commission? So the common methodology, the normal methodology that is used by the Finance Commission is the past expenditure. It has taken the past expenditure of the state for the similar cause, that for the natural calamity, how much corpus has been spent by the state in the past 10 years. And based on that, the quota has been further given, the quantum of corpus has been further given to the states. But the states were not happy with this. States were not happy with this because states were saying that this is not very scientific when it comes to the disaster. Rather than there should be some other element which should be taken into the care. What are the other element? The other element are like the area of hazard prone zone, that what are the vulnerability of the state, from which particular hazard one state is vulnerable to, number one. Then what is the duration of the state? Then what is the size of the state? What is the population of the state? So based on these methods, based on these criteria, a new methodology should be adopted, and where this past expenditure should be discontinued because this is not very much scientific. And this for this purpose they said that NDMA, NDMA, which is created under Disaster Management Act, that the database, whatever database, because we are not having the database since 1915 that way. So whatever database is managed by the NDMA, that can be utilized for this purpose. Then they also said that yes, the ratio is not very good, that 75 and 25. Rather, the ratio should be changed. They also said that the states which are overspending, their quota should be enhanced 33% than the previously. Then they also said that yes, the norms of expenditure, that the expenditure is allowed more on the relief part, the response part. The reconstruction is not allowed. Only some kind of semi-permanent nature structure is slightly allowed. So they also said that norms of expenditure should also be changed. Then can you tell me, when I'm talking about this calamity relief fund or state disaster response fund, is this fund available for all kind of disasters? It is not really. When it comes to that, which disasters are being funded by the state? So there are only 12 natural disasters which are funded by the state. And initially, it started with the six natural disasters. Later on the demands of the states, these are enhanced gradually. So the states have the concerns that there are region-specific disasters like lightning, sea erosion, and then heat and cold wave. They also say bird flu, then sunstroke, snake bite. If you see the number of death by the snake bite in Odisha, the number is quite high. So they say that this regional disaster should also be taken into account. So these were the demands from the states, the concern of the state. Then Ministry of Home Affairs and NDMA also had the similar view. They also said that this one size fits all approach is not appropriate. This should be changed in that way. Now this is, I told you, the 15th Finance Commission. I have 5 more minutes. I'll just, this is the most interesting part. The 15th Finance Commission, it is a game changer in that way when it comes to the financing. So it has brought a kind of paradigm shift. I told you that there is a response fund in Disaster Management Act. In addition to the response fund, the Disaster Management Act also says that mitigation fund should also be created. The State Disaster Mitigation Fund and National Disaster Mitigation Fund, which was being avoided continuously by the union government. And even some of the civil societies, they have also filed the case. It was the Swaraj Abhiyan versus the Union of India writ petition, in which the apex court has said that unfortunately no such fund has been constituted till date, and we direct the Union of India to establish mitigation fund as early as possible. So it is the section 47 which says that this mitigation fund should also be there. So one thing which is done by the Finance Commission, 15 Finance Commission, that it created a kind of hybrid fund now. Now there is a hybrid fund that we known as SDRMF and NDRMF. If I can tell you in a very simpler way, that is State Disaster Response and Mitigation Fund. So it has created a hybrid fund where the 80% of the corpus is used for the relief response and reconstruction purposes, and 20% is used for the mitigation. So similarly, SDRMF and NDRMF. In National Fund also, there is a response fund that is 80% and mitigation fund that is 20%. But once again, the Finance Commission says that the mitigation is only for the community level work. It is not for the mega project. It is not for the, heavy funding that should be met by the development plans of the union government and the state government. Now, I told you that based on the request and concerns of the state, MHA and NDMA, the 15th Finance Commission has brought a new methodology of funding. What is a new methodology of funding? Number one, it has a combination of capacity, risk exposure, hazard and vulnerability. So capacity is reflected that it has taken the 70% of the quota of SDRMF, is based on the capacity of the state, that what is the past expenditure of the state. Then it has also taken 15%, 15% weightage it has given to the area of the state, then 15% to the population of the state based on the number, how many people are there in the state, that is. Then it has also created one index, hazard and vulnerability. Hazard means it has taken four particular hazard, and vulnerability of the state. Vulnerability means what is the financial condition of the state. How many people are below poverty line, and this index once again is multiplied with the quota of the each state, and additional fund is given based on the risk index of each state. I'll just tell you briefly how it works. Like I told you, 70% is given to the past expenditure, 15% to the population, 15% to the area. This makes 100%. Okay. And for this purpose, the unit has been taken from the Maharashtra, because Maharashtra has a good number of population, area, moderate area. Then it has received maximum share of SDRF in 2015 to 20. So this is how it is decided. This makes 100%. But once again, this 100% has to be multiplied with the score achieved by each state in disaster risk index. So how this index is being prepared, I told you, like there are, flood, drought, cyclone and earthquake. These four hazards have been taken, that one state, if it is affected by the flood, it is given 15 points. If it is affected high, then medium, then low, then drought, similarly earthquake. And it has also one component, that is other. In other, every state has been given 10 points. Then similarly, like vulnerability, it has adopted the Suresh Tendulkar methodology, where the score is given. Low is if one state is having below 13% of poverty, 10% score, 13 to 26, medium 20 score, then 26 to 40, high 30 score. This is, you can find it out that how it works,
Sir,
that scores
sir,
for, yes.
sir, sorry to disturb, but I think slide is not changing after NCCF.
Oh, is it?
Yes, sir.
Nobody has
No, no. Let me
raised
ask, is it okay?
others.
Somebody please confirm the slide is
Is
at
it
Not
NC.
visible
visible?
on my end. Not, sir.
No, no, it is
Sorry.
visible, but it is not changing, right?
Yes, ma'am. NCCF is there. National Calamity
Uh,
Contingency.
yeah, National Calamity Contingency Fund, NCCF slide is there.
I'm not getting
जी
the
मैम
slide as well.
रजत को slide ही नहीं दिख रही है. No, no. Otherwise it is visible, but
now
Same here with
NCCF.
me.
now is it
NCCF के
visible?
बाद. It's visible, but it's not changing. You can stop sharing and then again start to share.
We
Okay,
are seeing actually NFCR now.
अच्छा,
wait
okay.
I'm seeing NFCR.
is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes. And National Fund for
Yes ma'am.
Calamity Relief.
No,
Yeah,
no,
please
it is
check that.
visible, sir. National Calamity Contingency Fund, but it is stuck at that. It's not changing. If you can just stop sharing and again share the presentation, or you can click on the presentation and click change.
No, now
So that same
it is
slide is
visible.
visible now.
Hey ma'am. Ah, okay, great. Now let me close it.
Yeah, just stop sharing and then you can share it again.
Is it changing now?
Mhm. Slide is
No,
not changing. It's okay, but what you are describing is more important, I think.
no, ma'am. But really, I prepared this
Yeah,
slide.
yeah, but it's not
Visible
changing.
things is.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, oh,
You can
oh.
come out of the slide share mode. You can
Yeah,
go
yeah.
out of the full screen mode. Then maybe it will be visible.
okay, now I'm sharing screen. Okay, ma'am. I think time is running now. I'll.
No, 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 don't worry. Just 1 second. We'll try because
Is it now? No, still not. Now the same slide is coming now also. I've changed it 2 3 times.
acha, okay. No, no. You can stop sharing. You stop sharing 1 second.
Now, ma'am, is it
Just
coming? No.
just a second. It's
Method of calculation. This slide is okay.
I'm sharing your presentation on behalf of you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Please.
Is it changing
Let it be
now?
good.
Some participant, please
Yes,
say.
yes, it is
Yes,
changing.
yes, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Oh, great.
Changing.
So,
Thank you.
sir, please tell me which slide should I go to? I hope Sanjay sir is able to see the slides.
No, ma'am, I'm not able to see the slides.
Acha. Oh,
No issue. You come to the
I
disaster risk
shared.
index.
Yes.
You come to the disaster risk index, ma'am. I'll tell you the number of slides.
Okay. NCCF and this central sector sponsored schemes, then additional central assistance, and then
Ma'am, you
disaster
come
risk
to
funding.
31. 31. Slide number 31, ma'am. 31.
Okay, just a second. Yes, disaster risk index.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Is this
So this is
visible
what
to all? Is this visible to all?
Yes.
Okay. Sir, continue, please.
commission.
You are audible,
Old-
sir.
I'm audible. Ma'am,
Yes, sir, you are audible.
okay, to Finance Commission, how the state was based on the past expenditure. But now uh, the ma'am, come to the slide number 34. 34.
Yes, yes. Just a second.
Now,
This is the disaster risk index 31, 32. Slide number 32. Somebody has switched on their audio out of the participants. If they can just switch off their audio. Umal Naidu. Okay.
yes, 34, ma'am. Are you with method calculation?
Yes. Slide number 32. Sir, I think your mic is gone muted. I think sir has lost connection till he comes back. I can do one thing. I can scroll the slides, which I think we missed. In the meantime, Manmeet, just pay attention. He will join again. I think he is logged out.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you. Can you see him here as in the participants? No, he is not there, no?
No, ma'am.
Yes, until he joins again, I'll just scroll the slides. From the slide where he left, where it was not changing, no? From here, it was not changing. So I'm changing the slides.
Okay, ma'am.
सर अभी अच्छा तो मन में थोड़ा ध्यान रखना सर ज्वाइन होते से मुझे बताना
Okay, ma'am.
so this is National Calamity Contingency Fund NCCF which he had described after that the slide was not changing So then features of NCCF. It is maintained in the public account of the Government of India. It is administered by a high-level committee comprising the Agriculture Minister, Home Minister, Finance Minister, as he just explained. And the report of the team is assessed by the interministerial group. And then Indra Awas Yojana has been accomplished useful relief work terms of providing house of the affected family. National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, NREGS, central sector sponsored schemes are these. Accelerated Rural Water Supply Program, ARWSP, NCRMP. Then you quickly go through these additional central assistance, which he had been telling, which were provided during a Gujarat earthquake, Indian Ocean tsunami, the Kashmir earthquake, and 645. Yes, Dipali Jaiswal is there. In fact, we will request participants to, when they join, they keep joining. They don't, if they leave and then join, leave and then join, that creates a lot of disturbance. Anyways. So 645 crores had been released to 10 states under ACA for long-term reconstruction of assets, including 180 crore to Arunachal Pradesh, 98 crores to Gujarat, 92 crores to Himachal Pradesh, and so on. So you can see DRF, disaster risk funding from 2nd to 12th FCs, which you can see, which he had been explaining till now. Then SDRF and NDRF, State Disaster Response Fund, and Section 48 SDRF and NDRF, Section 46 of NDRF. The transformation of CRF and NCCF into SDRF, NDRF was recommended by F's financial this thing 12th, 13th. That he was telling, and then we have to yet come to the slide where he left. States, while expressing views of 14th plan, maintained that while calculating the state-specific allocation of response funds, weightage should be given to the vulnerability of the state rather than an actual past expenditure of the state. And state stressed that two criteria, area of hazard-prone area and duration of hazard, should be considered while allocating of the funds to the states. So that seems quite reasonable. States also maintain that the database prepared by the National Disaster NDMA could be utilized for this funding, and concerns of the state uh, should be shared by the center in the same ratio as that of the CRF. One view expressed is that the allocation for the state that spend more than their CRF should be enhanced by 33%. All the states have argued for timely release of the center's share. States' view of the norms for expenditure. So you can see these norms be state specific, then pre-disaster levels, and material component. Sir, thank you so much, sir. We are waiting. Don't worry, we can extend time to whatever little bit participants won't mind. Yeah, I'm scrolling through the slides which participants missed. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Sanjay sir is joining within 2 minutes. Till then, we will take a revision of the slides. So the states have also suggested that the expenditure on the material component should be allowed up to 40%. It has been pointed out that the time limit allowed to complete repairs is too short and should be revised. Most of the states have argued that works of a semi-permanent nature should also be allowed. So NCCF and list of natural disasters, the states have variously suggested an inclusion of lightning, sea erosion, frost, heat cold wave, bird flu, rodent attack, and these most states have pointed out that the releases from the NCCF are delayed. The process of assessment is non transparent and ad hoc, and that assistance is grossly inadequate. And concerns of the related agencies. The MHA has also suggested that some percentage of funds under CSS should be earmarked for disaster mitigation, long-term disaster preparedness. And Ministry of Home Affairs and NDMA maintained that the size of SDRF should be determined by the hazard risk vulnerability profile of the state. One size fits all approach is not appropriate. That is quite reasonable. So NDMA suggested a one-time grant for the creation of NDRR, mainly consisting of non-perishable items like tents, tarpaulins, shelters, etc. So 15th Finance Commission paradigm shift is there, which Sir was stressing highly. 15th Finance Commission has analyzed the existing disaster risk financing and found that disaster financing is oriented towards the response and it lacks to address the wider approach of including adaptation, mitigation, preparedness, recovery, and reconstruction. So it was not practical till then. So Finance Commission 15 has brought two major changes in disaster risk funding: creation of a mitigation fund, adopting a new methodology of deciding the corpus of an amount to be allocated to each state for SDRF. So mitigation fund mandate section 47 of the Disaster Management Act provides for the constitution of a national disaster mitigation fund for projects exclusively for the purposes of mitigation, which, as mentioned earlier, means measures aimed at reducing or the risk of a disaster or threatening disaster situation. Although the Disaster Management Act has been in force since 2005, the NDMF has not yet been constituted. So Swaraj Abhiyan versus Union of India writ petition was there. The apex court has maintained that a national disaster mitigation fund is required to be established. Unfortunately, no such fund has been constituted till date. Accordingly, we direct the Union of India to establish an NDMF within a period of 3 months from today. So that writ petition was there, and FC 15 has found that expenditure based funding of the past FCs needs to be amended. It may increase the discrepancy of the allocation of funds amongst the states, as states with lower and higher expenditures generate asymmetrical distribution of funds. This new methodology, which replaces the expenditure driven methodology, is most inclusive as it represents a combination of capacity as reflected through the expenditure, risk exposure, area and population, and hazard vulnerability. Sir had explained this. I hope Sir has joined again, Manmeet. Just tell me when he joins.
Okay, ma'am.
Please, please tell me because these are all the points which are very interesting. And although he had been describing, but then the capacity, the methodology for it should these all the are the things which should be included in the methodology: capacity, risk exposure, hazard, and vulnerability. So capacity as reflected through expenditure, exposure, area and population, and hazard and vulnerability, disaster risk index. How high is the level of hazard or vulnerability? Exposure is different. Exposure is the spatial content
Hello,
and
ma'am.
capacity. Yes, sir. Sir, you have joined again.
Yes, there was some network issue. Really sorry for that.
No, no, you don't have to be sorry, sir. But then, just a second. I came till this slide. If you are able to see,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This is
take in.
this.
शॉर्ट में आप ले लीजिए. I'll just mute my mic. Yes, sir. Please continue.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Actually, I was just telling you the methodology. Ma'am, I think now I can share. If shall I try once?
Yeah, yeah. I'll stop sharing.
Yes, ma'am. Is it visible, friends?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is changing and visible.
Okay, okay.
You can
Fine.
come to that slide which I was.
Yes, I was just telling you that this is earlier the 100% was given for the past expenditure. Now it is the 70% which is given to the past expenditure. Then 15% is given to the population and 15% to the area while deciding the quota for all the states. This is one thing that is brought by the 15th Finance Commission. It also created one disaster risk index. This risk index is created based on two things, that is the hazard exposure of the state, that how it is exposed to the hazard. For that purpose, it has taken landslide, flood, earthquake, and drought, and some other risk. And what is the vulnerability? The vulnerability in terms of economic capability of the state. That what portion of the state is coming under the poverty line. So for this purpose, this index is created where the three category of the score is given: low, medium, and high for the flood, drought, cyclone, and earthquake to every state. And other one category is created, other 10, which is given to every state. Then this for the vulnerability, for the poverty, they decided Suresh Tendulkar methodology. And within this, they decided the poverty ratio of a state. Once again, the score is given low, medium, and high, 10, 20, and 30, based on the poverty percentage of the state. Now, this is the disaster risk index. I told you that they have created 100% of 70, 15, 15, and this is how the score is created for each state. Like Andhra, flood 10 marks is given, drought 15 marks is given, cyclone 15 marks is given, earthquake low probability. Entire India is divided from the perspective of earthquake in 5 zones, we all know. So it is not covered in the high risk zone. Then other 10. Then this is the H, overall hazard exposure score. Then poverty, the score of poverty is given. Then H plus I. Then it is divided by 100. And this is the score received by Andhra Pradesh, 0.650. So whatever the quota, whatever the quantum of money that Andhra will be having, like 70, 15, and 15, this will be multiplied by this score. And this additional corpus will also be given to the state. This is how the 15th Finance Commission has brought quite, it has addressed the concern of the state, where it has included the area also, population also, and also it has taken care of the hazard and vulnerability of the state. So I told you that there is a hybrid fund which is being created by the 15th Finance Commission. That is the NDRMF and SDRMF, response and mitigation fund, in that way. So 80% is given to the response and 20% is given to the mitigation. Now, even within the 80%, this is something which is done by 15th Finance Commission. Quite, it has broken the convention that was till the 14th Finance Commission. That once again, this response fund has been divided into this component: response and relief purpose 40% fund should be utilized, recovery and reconstruction, which was not allowed earlier. So this portion was not allowed earlier. They were allowing only a minimum repair kind of work. So this recovery and reconstruction, now states can reconstruct their schools, their hospitals, some other infrastructure out of the SDRMF, and NDRMF also, basically. And 10% is given for the preparedness and capacity building. Now, this is not interchangeable, that you cannot take the response fund into the mitigation one and you cannot bring the mitigation into the response fund. This work, but 10% reallocation within the sub windows of NDRF is, available. Now, this is another thing. Most of the time, you say that states are asking for more corpus in the name of rare severity. But now the 15th Finance Commission said that whatever the fund will be coming, from the NDRF and NDMF, which was entirely borne by the union, now it will also be shared. So it should be for the up to 250 crore, 10% should be shared by the state. Then up to 500 crores, 20%, and above 500 crore, 25%. This is what it said. And it also said, the 15th Finance Commission, then don't only rely on the SDRMF and NDRMF. Rather than that, the state should also explore some other avenues, you know. So reconstruction board, it can initiate some corporate social responsibility, they should rope in. Then crowdfunding, very important. Nowadays they say that most of the event, the even the individual get the crowdfunding. So why not the states can also adopt this one? So these are the data which are available in the 15th Finance Commission report, already available on the internet freely. You can have it and you can see it from there. So this is the release in 2024. I have just listed it out from their website, from the website of NDMA, that you can see that this much corpus of this is allocated for this year. SDRF, this is released by the central government. This is released in two installment, first and second one. Now this is it. This was another dimension which I was willing to cover, but I am skipping for now because already it is 10 minutes delay. I would like to take some of your questions. Yes. Thank you. Thank you once and all.
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर, बहुत अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन है सर आपका, and we enjoyed it thoroughly, and there are so many things which we learned also. Please raise your hand, participants, please. If participants have any question, please raise your hand.
Yes, there were a few queries about the state commission and other, if any are there. I told you, ma'am, in case of finances, there are very less queries.
No sir, there are many queries.
Okay, ma'am.
बहुत
Okay.
अभी तो there in finances only, queries are there in finances only.
Okay.
If nobody is asking any question, can I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
So these things we were talking about how this center would be what liability it has and what state liabilities are there with respect
Yes.
to finances during disasters. Then
Mm.
if suppose one individual is there, if
Mm.
suppose we should not say this, but suppose he loses some portion of his property and he loses his documents, or what kind of compensation he will get, and what kind of insurance one should have for safeguarding all these things.
Ma'am, a very relevant question that you have raised. So particularly now everything comes from the state. Like if I'm working on a paper on the cyclone Fengal in Pondicherry in that way. So how it is being dealt. So as soon as some natural calamity, it gets over. So the states announces the relief packages. For example, in Pondicherry government, the CM has announced that 5,000 rupees will be given to every ration card holder. This is one of the major. So irrespective, it doesn't make any difference whether the person suffered or not, to everybody. And the budget comes to 177 crores. Similarly, if somebody's boat has been damaged, so 10,000 rupees has to be given to him. If somebody's cattle has died, so some portion, some compensation. Somebody's hut or some other residential area is damaged, so one particular amount is given. So this is generally, you can say, decided by the state. So individual is on receiving end, number one. Number two, when it comes to the insurance, so this term of reference is there with the finance commissions since the sixth finance commission. That why can't we insure the people in that way? So most of the time, the Finance Commission has repeated this, that the expenditure of the calamity has to be borne by the state. So it is the state's responsibility and liability to provide relief and response to the individual. And when it will be coming to the insurance, so a lot of nitty-gritty bit has to be sorted out. So till date, we are not in a position that like we are traveling in a train. So now, when we are booking the IRCTC ticket, we have a option to take the insurance in that way. The similar applies to the flight. But otherwise, we are not coming to a solution where we can take a minimum subscription from each and every individual. Suppose in Pondicherry, we people are vulnerable from the cyclone. So everybody should be given some amount of insurance. Everybody can be insured. But this is something which government ruled out, that you can have your personal insurance in that way. But from the perspective of this natural calamity, the Finance Commission and government is not ready for this. So they said that whatever state is giving to the individual, that is a better mechanism. Anyone
In this,
else?
sir,
Yes.
in this regard, I think uh, this cannot be generalized only because there are bylaws and codes and all. People don't follow the codes in general.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then how can they claim if they are not following the code? So this
That's
is
I'm
complicated.
Yes, ma'am. That's I'm saying that Finance Commission from the sixth to now they are keep rejecting this insurance scheme. They are
Hmm.
saying this SDRF and NDRMF, let the money should go to the state, and state should decide what kind of relief is given to the individual in that.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. These are the things which can be discussed on and on and on. But then, please, participants, I have many questions, but then I will sort them out later. Participants, please come forward if
Hello,
you
sir.
have any question.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes,
Hello, sir. Good
please.
presentation. Thank you for great information.
Yes,
Sir,
Vasudev.
2018 Kerala
Hmm. Yes.
flood
Hmm.
and government also, central also help us and offer many foreign country also offered more, particularly UAE offered more than 900 crore rupees to Kerala government. But
Hmm.
the central government will not allow for not receive the
Hmm.
fund from the UAE. What is the reason
Yes.
behind the any rules or regulation for exchanging this amount to the government of Kerala? What is the rules, policies for exchanging this amount?
Yes,
How
yes. Very
the
good
what is
question.
the why central government reject the funds for from the
Very good.
UAE?
Very good question that you have raised. When we see that 2018 Kerala flood, it was one of the institute has released one report which says disaster of the century. So in that, the estimate is 40,000 crore rupees. That was the loss, and that was few of my last slide which I skipped. Because of whatever the disturbance has happened. And I told you it was in 2004 that we made a policy. The government of India made a policy that we will not receive any foreign aid for managing our crisis. Why? Because now India lies in the mid power. If we'll see the global politics, if we want to see that where India lies. So India lies in the mid power, and we want to become a developed country in that way. So the size of our economy is that one, that we are the fifth largest, but very soon we are going to overcome Britain, and very soon we are going to overcome Japan in that way. So Japan is having around 4 point some trillion economy. We will cross Japan very soon. Will become the third largest economy of the world. You know, and when we are demanding permanent membership in the United Nations and other thing, so we have to say that no to foreign aid in that way. And once again, when you are saying that some country is offering and union government denied, I told you in the beginning that India is a federal country and there are certain power. Federal means that power is shared between the center and the state. So there are certain power which are there in the hands of the center, to which the state cannot claim. For example, currency, for example, defense, for example, foreign relation, for example, foreign aid, you know. So state cannot say we will also have our army, we'll also have our currency. In the similar way, this foreign aid is also controlled by the union government, you know. And there is also one clause, one article in Indian Constitution. If you'll see, that is Article 253. It says that even if there is a state issue, for example, agriculture is a state issue. But if the union government enter into any international agreement on agriculture, then it is the union government which will have the power to legislate, you know, on agriculture for India. So in that way, I'll say that it is the policy of central government, and every state is supposed to abide by it. So we cannot say to foreign aid, yes to foreign aid, until or unless there is a green signal from the union government. But good question, very good question.
Thank you so much,
Ye-
sir. One question is there on the group. I'll quickly read it out.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
from Navneet Singh, how does the disparity in central and state contributions to the SDRF impact economically weaker and disaster prone states like Bihar,
Hmm.
who have to maintain 25% funding of their own,
Hmm.
which face frequent floods compared to Himalayan states that receive 90% central funding? Why we have not adopted Rangarajan committee report on this? Rangarajan committee was much more realistic than Tendulkar committee. So why we are not adopting this?
Ma'am, once again, it comes to the, you know, the policymakers' decision that why they are considering something and why not. But once again, I can say that even the finance commissions are having different view on that. If you'll go to the 14th Finance Commission, the 14th Finance Commission said 90% contribution of the SDRF should come from the central government and only 10% from the state government. And even up to that, it said that look, you know, the states, though we are not following with that term right now, where we are saying the special category state. Now that is done away, you know. So those kind of states which are on the northeast, Himalayan state, the 100% fund is given by the union government in that way. So it is the union government which decide based on the recommendation of the finance commission. And once again, the finance commission also is not giving the recommendation based on its discretion, you know. I just want to tell you, even in the 16th Finance Commission, when they were discussing about how to improvise the disaster risk management, the Finance Commission also reached out to me, you know, being having some papers on this disaster financing. They also wanted to have my views on that. So the Finance Commission consults the states, they consult the stakeholder ministries, they see the economic viabilities of the state, and thereafter they recommend it to the central government to have certain schemes. So this is more, I think that if you'll see the quantum, also the quantum of the quota of SDRF and NDMF over the period of time, it has enhanced too much, you know, it has multiplied. We started with the 34 crore with the second finance commission, and now if you'll see, we have reached up to 65,000 crores, you know, in that way.
Thank you so much,
And
sir.
but
Hmm.
ma'am, you can share my email with all the participants, and I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
request all the participants to send your questions, queries, comment, or whatever, because this is how we can improvise our research, in that way.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Somebody is writing one question. Bhavna, please. Bhavna wants to ask some question.
Yes.
Thanks, Rashri.
Yes.
Maybe I have missed that part in your presentation, so pardon me. But my question is, I can see the disaster and the funding in
Yes,
three
ma'am.
category.
Hmm.
One is fund for relief after disaster,
Hmm.
fund for rebuilding after disaster, and fund to prevent disaster.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what is the Finance Commission's policy on these three things? Because, and what is the ratio of distribution when it comes to, allocating fund, and whether it makes any difference in, preventing disaster than spending more on relief or rebuilding after disaster. I hope my question is clear.
Yes, Bhavnaji, but you really missed some of the slides, some of
Yeah,
the part in that way, because
yeah.
already I told you it was before 15 Finance Commission. If you'll see, the most of the fund was given, for the relief and response only, and that is the reason. In the beginning, I told you that 15 Finance Commission said that the disaster financing is looked upon as a contingent liability, that we were responding after the disaster was happening, not before that. And now there is a hybrid scheme which is being provided by the recommended by the 15th Finance Commission, that has 20% mitigation fund and 80% response fund. And even within 80% of response, it is divided. 40% is given to the instant relief and response. Then for that 30% is given for the recovery and reconstruction. So this 30% was missing earlier. This was not there from second to 14th Finance Commission. So this is a add-on from the side of the 15th Finance Commission, and 10% is given for the capacity building. Obviously, when we are saying capacity building, I don't know how many amongst are you. Maybe Rashri ma'am knows it very well because she is the part of the WhatsApp group of the NIDM. So NIDM from this year is offering sponsorship and scholarship in PhD in disaster number one. This is capacity building. Then it has also released grants for the project on disaster management. So this kind of capacity building funding is also being given by the 15th Finance Commission. Then reconstruction, recovery and reconstruction means the state can utilize this fund for creating schools, hospital, or some other community infrastructure, which they were not able earlier. And there is one component, obviously in future, if we will meet on some platform, that is, CDRI, that India has started in 2018-19, Coalition for Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. So whatever infrastructure we are creating from now on, our thrust is on, based on the vulnerability of the area, we should create that kind of infrastructure which is resilient to the disaster. So maybe the costing may be slightly more, but the benefits are quite big in that way.
So very well explained. Bhavna, where
Yeah,
are we?
yes, yes, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, ma'am.
I have
Thank
other
you.
questions, but maybe later on
One, yeah.
we'll
Ma'am, you
discuss.
can mail
Yeah,
it to me. I'll be
yeah, yeah. Sure.
waiting for your questions. Really.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so
Is
much.
this one extension to his question, Navneet Singh? Should the 16th Finance Commission, which was constituted recently,
Yes.
consider revising the vertical and horizontal devolution of taxes to create a more equitable and efficient funding mechanism for disaster prone states, ensuring adequate financial support for SDRF and DRF allocations?
Still it is under study, under process. What I'm saying, they are consulting the stakeholder even right now. So I cannot comment on that because their study, their interaction is going on. But still they are working out on the betterment and allocation of more fund to the states in the future.
Now I thank you, sir. People are still entering and exiting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyways, but then this was such a wonderful session, and so we have taken your extra time, 30 minutes, maybe
No, ma'am, not at all. Sorry from my side.
23.
There was a network disruption. Really sorry for that.
No, no, you don't have to be sorry. But thank you. You have compensated more than that. And I
Thank
would like to say that this not only finance but disaster management issues and that all science and all, not only urban planner, architects, and whoever had joined, just everybody should be taught and they should be learning each and everything they should be having. So, and finance is a very important topic, definitely. Thank you so much, sir, for
you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
taking out your precious time and taking this such means बहुत सारी चीजें तो यहाँ पे participants को पता नहीं होंगी जो कि पता चली होंगी. But then thank you
Certainly.
so much. We'll call you again